Aloha mai kākou. Mahalo nui for this great event. Mahalo nui for the Bailey House, Sissy, for making a space for this, I think, very impactful, very emotional, but also very educational play. So mahalo nui to UH Maui for helping to coordinate and organize this year's ʻOnipaʻa. Right? We're commiserating, right, 126 years since the illegal overthrow of the Hawaiian Kingdom government. Yeah. I was able to take part in a presentation yesterday. I also was able to listen to some students at UH Maui who were doing presentations, and it was very exciting to see. I think the continuation of education. This play, I definitely also want to acknowledge and recognize Lynette Cruz and Ka Lei Maile Aliʻi for having this play run for as long as it has. I think it's been in production since 2012, and I think it's one of those plays. It's an immersive play that will allow, I think, our people to have an understanding, right, of what it felt like, the kind of excitement in the air, if you will, the turmoil in the air, right, in 1897. This play is based on a newspaper article that was written in the San Francisco Call in 1897. It was written by a journalist. Her name was Miriam Michelson. Miriam Michelson was an American citizen who came to Hawaii as a reporter to see what was happening, right, in 1897. 1897, of course, is 3 or 4 short years after the overthrow of the government, and the looming prospect of annexation to the United States was in the air, right? This particular presentation that I'll do, maybe about 15 to 20 minutes, will provide us some context, some historical context of how is it that we got to 1897, right? How is it that we got, I guess, here? But how is it that Miriam Michelson was drawn to do a report on what was happening in 1897. If you haven't had the opportunity, I would encourage all of you to try and get your hands on the actual newspaper. It's quite extensive, but I think it does I think it does a great job in explaining what the sentiments were, right, for Hawaiians living in Hawaii in 1897, right? And when I use the term Hawaiian, and I'll talk about this a little bit more, I'm using it in the sense of citizenship, in the sense of nationality. The term Hawaiian was what denoted nationality or citizenship to the Hawaiian Kingdom, and it was never based on ethnicity or blood quantum, right? What you do see in that Miriam Michelson piece, as she reports, is almost the entire Hawaiian national population is opposed to the prospect of annexation. What you also see in that particular article as well too is the role of Hawaiian women, and you'll definitely see that in the play as well, right? Aima Navahi, Ku'ai Helani Campbell, with their elegant speeches, right? They're giving speeches in the Hilo Salvation Army, and Miriam Michelson is, of course, not just impressed of how articulate and eloquent they were, right? But she was taken aback by the fact that there was 2 women in 1897 standing in front of a crowd of about 400, which included men as well too. In the country that Miriam Michelson came from, right? I think the role of women was much different. That's one thing I think her article does a very good job at doing is pointing out at how women played such a tremendous role in organizing political resistance against the prospect of annexation. But without further ado, I'll spend about 15 minutes just giving a brief history of Hawaii. I will, I think, premise these remarks by also throwing a shout out to the work that's being done at the University of Hawaiʻi at Mānoa to start to re-educate, to start to bring to life, bring to surface a history that many of us were never taught in our public education system here in Hawaii. Right? Like many of you who went to public school, I was given 3 full semesters of Hawaiian history. Right? You get 1 in 4th grade, 1 in 7th grade, and 1 in 9th grade. Yeah. 3 full semesters, and it's usually taught, and it was, in my case, it was usually taught by someone who wasn't qualified to teach Hawaiian history. Yeah. So the kinds of history that we received were very limited. Yeah. And so I want to say that much of this history that we've come to know now, right, that is coming to the surface is very much, I think, a product of the scholarship, the research that's taking place in the University of Hawaiʻi system. It's also encouraging to note that there's more Hawaiian faculty and Hawaiian students than there ever has been in the UH system. Right, providing access to higher education is the key to a lot of what history we know now today. So, a little bit about the Hawaiian Kingdom. Right, what is the Hawaiian Kingdom? Where does it come from? Why is it not called the Hawaiian Kingdom? How come we're not called Hawaiians? Why are we called Hawaiians? Why is it called the Hawaiian Kingdom? Yeah, so the progenitor, right, the founder of the Hawaiian Kingdom, right, is Kamehameha, right, from the island of Hawaii, hence the word Hawaiians. When Kamehameha is rising, Hawaii Island is its own independent country, if you will. Right next door, channel over, the Kingdom of Maui, its own independent country. Right? Kingdom of Oahu, Kingdom of Kauai, all operating independently of one another. What makes this kind of unique, and you don't see very much places in the world, is that despite having these independent political systems, right, these different kingdoms in play, all of the different people that were within the kingdom all came from the same family. They all shared the same culture. They all shared the same language. So in essence, in Kamehameha's rise, the kingdom of Hawaii basically incorporates, right, through conquest, but also through diplomacy, all the rest of the island kingdoms. They were consolidated into one. One of the things that I think pops into our mind, or immediately will pop into our mind when we talk about Kamehameha, is his valor or his bravery as a warrior. There are many books written about Kamehameha's bravery on the battleship. Right, many books about how skilled he was in the art of fighting. One place I would want to push our attention more to is understanding Kamehameha's, I think, excellence in diplomacy. Right? Yes, he did conquer and consolidate the islands, the other kingdoms through war. But what Kamehameha is also not given enough credit for is the peace that he also brings. And mind you, Kamehameha is not just dealing with the internal politics, the inter-rivalries of the other kingdoms, right? He's also, like the rest of the other kingdoms, experiencing widespread European voyaging, right? You name that colonial power in the 19th century, they are circling Hawaii, right? The Americans, of course, are here. The British are here. The Russians, the Spanish as well too. Hawaii, however, Hawaii is the only country in the Pacific that's not formally colonized. Yeah. Hawaii is also, the Hawaiian Kingdom is also the first non-European territory to be recognized as an independent state. And much of this has to do, right, the conditions through which Hawaii even becomes a constitutional monarchy has much to do with Kamehameha's diplomacy in the 19th century. He engaged with foreigners as a way to enhance his identity. He engaged with foreigners in a way to provide protection, right, over what could be a very vulnerable grab for an imperial country. Another, I think, important part of history when we talk about Kamehameha too is his engagements with Britain, right? Many of you notice that the Hawaiian flag bears a very similar look to that of the Union Jack, right? And for many years, many historians have pointed to that and have pointed to Kamehameha's relationship with Cook or not Cook, but Vancouver, as one in which Kamehameha was being manipulated, right? There's an agreement that takes place between Vancouver and Kamehameha in 1794, in which Kamehameha actually cedes his authority, the island of Hawaii, the kingdom of Hawaii, to the British Crown. And he's not doing that because he's being manipulated. Kamehameha is not the one being manipulated in this scenario. Kamehameha, I would argue, is maybe doing the manipulating, right? When we push forward into the constitutional system, right? Under Kamehameha, it's an absolute monarchy. Kamehameha is the person who makes the laws, the person who executes the laws, and the person who judges the laws, right? The Hawaiian Kingdom, however, transforms from an absolute monarchy to a constitutional monarchy in 1839. 1839 is when you have the first Bill of Rights that are created. 1840 is when you have Hawaii's first constitution. What is unique about Hawaii's transformation from an absolute monarch to a constitutional monarch is that it happened without bloodshed. In other places in the world, when you transfer absolute monarchy to a constitutional system, in places like France, for example, in order for that to happen, you got to cut off the king or the queen's head for the people to get rights. In Hawaii, in the Hawaiian Kingdom, under Kauai Kamehameha III, he voluntarily divests himself of that absolute authority. Right? Many historians have looked at that and said, look, Kamehameha III got manipulated. Kamehameha III was duped into relinquishing his authority. Right? Another lens or another way to look at that is no, right? That if you're an absolute ruler, how much people do you need to take out in order to take the whole entire country that ruler is a part of? Just one. Yeah. The creation of a constitutional system separates powers within the Hawaiian Kingdom, right? Now there's a judiciary branch, now there's a legislative branch, and now there's the executive branch. Yeah. What you also start to see in and around that time is for the first time, maka'ainana are now being asked to be a part of the political process. Right? Now, for the first time, maka'ainana are now being given the ability to vote. Yeah? And if you think about a society that for 2,000 years, that wasn't the case. Right? Maka'ainana weren't voting for who their chief was in the year 1700. Yeah. That's probably going to take a little bit of adjusting to get used to, right? For maka'ainana or for the commoners to be a part of this political process. But it does. It takes place. In fact, one of the things that you also start to see in and around this period is the development of citizenship laws. Citizenship in the Hawaiian Kingdom in the they're creating citizenship laws in 1845, trying to figure out who constitutes, right? Who composes the Hawaiian national population. There were three primary ways in which you could acquire Hawaiian citizenship. The first was being born from the soil. Anybody born within the realm of the country was considered a Hawaiian subject. The other was through parentage. right? If one of your parents were a Hawaiian Kingdom subject, you also acquired that nationality, that citizenship. I just got told I got 5 minutes left and I'm only in 1840. Let's speed this up. And then the other way in which you could acquire citizenship was through naturalization, right? And this is in 1845, right? There are naturalization laws in the Hawaiian Kingdom that again aren't based on race, and you have nearly every kind of person coming into Hawaii of every kind of skin color and being eligible to qualify or become a Hawaiian citizen, right? There are some great examples of even African Americans who are escaping slavery, finding their way to the shores of Hawaii, naturalizing, and becoming a Hawaiian national, right? You have the development of a constitutional system for almost 40 years, right? 1887, you have the Bayonet Constitution, which of course we know there's problems in a constitution if it starts with bayonet, right? Probably doesn't sound like a fair process went down. 1887, Kalakaua's powers are stripped by a small minority of white Hawaiian subjects in Hawaii. It also marks one of the first times in which certain ethnic groups were targeted, right? The Aboriginal population, many were disqualified of citizenship because of they didn't own property. But I think the other more impactful one is Asians, right? The Chinese and Japanese communities that were in Hawaii for years, that were citizens of the Hawaiian Kingdom, were also stripped of their right to vote. Yeah. Okay, I gotta find a transition to get to 1897 now. Yeah. Yeah. So 1893, Hawaii is occupied, right? 126 years ago today. What we should also remember about 1893 is the sheer brilliance of Liliuokalani, right? And the way in which she handled foreign intervention, right? The way in which she handled another country occupying her country. It's probably because of her, or actually it is because of her, that Hawaii today arguably has a watertight, a bulletproof argument to rest his case, right? That the United States doesn't have jurisdiction in Hawaii today. And that has a lot to do with the process that Queen Liliuokalani implemented during some of the most tumultuous times in Hawaiian history. Because President Cleveland was unable to follow through with an executive agreement to restore Queen Liliuokalani to the throne, you have the incoming of a new president in McKinley, who has a completely different policy and agenda than Cleveland does. McKinley is wanting to expand the borders of the United States into the Pacific. That was a very hotly contested idea, right? Even many Americans thought that was not a good idea to expand the borders of America past California and into the Pacific. McKinley, however, has another objective, right? He's looking to expand, and he does. And as a result, America gets into a war with Spain on two fronts, one in the Caribbean and one in the Pacific. In 1898, August 12th, Hawaii is occupied in order to fortify war operations against the Spain in Philippines. There's never been a treaty of annexation. That treaty of annexation and that attempt on the part of the Republic was actually shot down by the overwhelming protest of Hawaiian nationals in Hawaii, right? Those are, we know that to be the Ku'e petitions, right? Noinoi Silva helped to bring us that history. The Ku'e petitions are back there, If you have a feeling that you're related to somebody in and around that time, their name quite possibly could be in that book, irrespective of color or race as well, right? Those that were signing that protest to American annexation were a multitude of colors, right? There's even a lot of Caucasians who are signing on to that petition, right? And this is all going to say that Hawaii has a very, very nuanced and complex history, one that we're only starting to understand now. This play, as you'll see, will put you in the setting of the Salvation Army in Hilo, and it will give you a good understanding of the sentiment, the emotions, and the excitement of what was taking place. So I will pass this on.